Hello there. Tonight we're drifting into the microscopic world that lives inside every cell of your body. We'll explore the gentle mysteries of DNA, those twisted ladders of life that carry the quiet stories of who you are and where you came from. Some of what we'll discover will be surprisingly soothing, like how your DNA repairs itself while you sleep. Others will be wonderfully strange, like how you share genetic code with bananas and butterflies. But each fact will open a window into the elegant molecular dance happening inside you right now, more intricate and beautiful than we often realize. This evening we'll wander through a collection of remarkable truths about the building blocks of life. Glimpses into worlds where molecules whisper instructions across generations, where genetic codes unfold like ancient manuscripts, and where the blueprint of existence reveals its gentle secrets. You might find yourself drifting towards sleep or simply letting these ideas flow quietly in the background. If you enjoy these videos and would like to join us for more nighttime explorations, you can like and subscribe below and feel free to share your thoughts down in the comments. But for now, all you need to do is get comfortable. Let your breathing slow, your mind soften, and allow the wonder of your own genetic heritage to wash gently over you. Let's begin. DNA is older than you can imagine. The first DNA molecules began forming nearly 4 billion years ago, long before the first animals, before plants, even before the oxygen you're breathing existed in our atmosphere. Every strand of DNA in your body carries this ancient history, a molecular thread connecting you to the very first spark of life on Earth. The same 4 chemical letters that spell out your genetic code, A, T, G, and C, have been writing the story of life since our planet was young and wild. In a very real sense, you are made of stardust and time, carrying within your cells a library that has been growing and evolving for eons. Your DNA contains instructions written in a language more elegant than any human tongue. These instructions don't speak in words, but in sequences of chemical bases, each one a letter in an alphabet that spells out everything from the color of your eyes to the rhythm of your heartbeat. What makes this language remarkable is its simplicity. With just 4 letters, DNA writes the entire encyclopedia of life. Every protein your body makes, every enzyme that helps you digest food, every antibody that protects you from illness, all of these emerge from different combinations of those same 4 molecular letters arranged in endless, beautiful variations. If you could stretch out all the DNA in your body, it would reach from Earth to the Sun and back again more than 300 times. This incredible length is packed into the tiny nucleus of each cell, coiled and folded with an efficiency that would make the best architects weep with envy. Every cell in your body contains the same complete set of genetic instructions, yet somehow a heart cell knows to beat while a brain cell knows to think. The same blueprint, interpreted differently, creates the magnificent complexity of your living, breathing form. DNA repairs itself while you sleep. Throughout the day, your genetic material accumulates tiny damages from sunlight, chemicals, and the simple act of living. But when you rest, molecular repair crews get to work, carefully scanning each strand for errors and fixing them with remarkable precision. These repair systems are so sophisticated they can detect and correct mistakes that involve just a single misplaced chemical letter among billions. In the quiet hours of night, your DNA quietly heals itself, preparing for another day of carrying your genetic story forward. You share more genetic code with other living things than you might expect. About 60% of your DNA is identical to that of a banana, while you share 99% of your genetic code with chimpanzees and about 90% with cats. This isn't coincidence, but rather evidence of our shared evolutionary heritage. The fundamental processes of life, from breathing to digesting food to healing wounds, require similar molecular machinery across species. These genetic echoes remind us that all life on Earth is connected, branches on the same vast tree that began growing billions of years ago. Your DNA contains sequences that seem to serve no purpose, once called junk DNA. For decades, scientists wondered why more than 90% of human genetic material appeared to do nothing at all. But recent discoveries suggest this so-called junk DNA might be far from useless. Some of these sequences help control when and where genes are turned on or off, like molecular switches that fine-tune the expression of genetic instructions. Others might serve as a kind of evolutionary insurance policy, preserving ancient genetic information that could be useful if environmental conditions change. Your genome is not just the instruction manual, but also a vast library of evolutionary memory. DNA can survive for thousands of years under the right conditions. Scientists have extracted readable genetic material from woolly mammoths frozen in permafrost, from ancient Egyptian mummies, and even from insects trapped in amber. These genetic time capsules allow us to peer into the past, reading the stories written in the genes of creatures that lived long before recorded history. The stability of DNA means that some of the molecules in your body might persist long after you're gone, carrying forward the unique genetic signature that makes you distinctly you. Every person on Earth can trace their ancestry back to a common genetic ancestor who lived in Africa roughly 200,000 years ago. This genetic Eve, as scientists call her, was not the only woman alive at the time, but she was the only one whose genetic line survived unbroken to the present day. Through careful analysis of mitochondrial DNA, which passes from mothers to children, researchers have mapped the great human migration out of Africa and across the globe. Your genetic code carries the story of this incredible journey with tiny variations that mark the paths your ancestors took as they spread across continents and adapted to new environments. DNA copying is remarkably accurate but not perfect. Every time a cell divides, it must create an exact copy of its genetic material, a process that happens millions of times throughout your life. The cellular machinery that handles this copying is extraordinarily precise, making fewer than one error per billion letters copied. But those small mistakes that do slip through are not necessarily bad. Some become the raw material for evolution, the tiny variations that allow species to adapt and change over time. In a sense, the imperfection of DNA copying is what makes perfection possible, allowing life to continuously refine and improve itself. Your genetic code influences your sleep patterns. Buried within your DNA are instructions that help set your internal clock, determining whether you naturally feel alert in the morning or come alive at night. These genetic variations affect how your body produces melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy, and how sensitive you are to light and darkness. Some people carry genetic variants that make them natural early risers, while others have DNA that predisposes them to be night owls. Your genetic makeup doesn't destine your sleep schedule, but it does provide a gentle nudge towards certain patterns of rest and wakefulness. DNA can be damaged by emotions and stress, but it can also be healed by peace and relaxation. When you experience chronic stress, your body produces hormones that can actually shorten the protective caps on your chromosomes, called telomeres. These molecular timekeepers help determine how well your cells age, and shorter telomeres are associated with faster aging and increased disease risk. But research suggests that meditation, gentle exercise, and quality sleep can help protect and even lengthen these genetic guardians. In this way, taking care of your emotional well-being is also taking care of your DNA. The double helix structure of DNA was discovered through X-ray crystallography, a technique that reveals the hidden architecture of molecules. When X-rays pass through DNA crystals, they create diffraction patterns that look like abstract art, with spots and curves that encode information about molecular structure. The famous Photo 51, taken by Rosalind Franklin, showed the characteristic X pattern that revealed DNA's twisted ladder shape. These ghostly images captured the shadow of life's blueprint, allowing scientists to see for the first time the elegant spiral staircase that carries genetic information from generation to generation. Your DNA contains genes that came from ancient viruses. Throughout evolutionary history, viruses have occasionally inserted their genetic material into the genomes of their hosts. Some of these viral genes became permanently incorporated into our DNA, and now about 8% of the human genome consists of sequences that originated from ancient viral infections. Most of these viral remnants are inactive, but some have been repurposed by evolution to serve useful functions. In a surprising twist, some of these viral genes now help protect us against modern viral infections, turning old enemies into new allies. DNA methylation acts like molecular punctuation marks, helping determine which genes are read and which are silently skipped over. These chemical modifications don't change the genetic letters themselves, but rather influence how they're interpreted, like adding emphasis or quiet pauses to a written sentence. Environmental factors, from the food you eat to the stress you experience, can influence these methylation patterns, potentially affecting how your genes are expressed. This means that while your genetic code remains largely unchanged throughout your life, the way that code is read and interpreted can shift in response to your experiences. The oldest known DNA belongs to bacteria that have been dormant for millions of years. In deep salt deposits and ancient ice cores, scientists have discovered microorganisms that entered a state of suspended animation long ago, their DNA preserved in pristine condition. When brought back to the surface and given the right conditions, some of these ancient bacteria have actually returned to life, their genetic machinery still functional after eons of dormancy. These discoveries suggest that DNA can remain viable far longer than previously thought, carrying the potential for life across vast stretches of time. Human DNA varies surprisingly little from person to person. Any two humans share about 99.9% of their genetic code, meaning that all the visible differences between people, from height and eye color to facial features, arise from variations in less than 0.1% of our genome. This tiny fraction of genetic difference creates the beautiful diversity of human appearance and physiology, while confirming that we are all fundamentally members of the same human family. The genetic variations that do exist tell stories of adaptation, migration, and the remarkable ways life finds solutions to environmental challenges. DNA packaging is a masterpiece of molecular engineering. Each cell nucleus, smaller than the period at the end of this sentence, somehow contains 6 feet of DNA. This is accomplished through an intricate system of folding and coiling where DNA wraps around protein spools called histones, which then coil into higher order structures like molecular origami. The precision of this packaging is essential for proper cellular function. When DNA is too tightly packed, genes cannot be accessed and read. When it's too loose, the genetic material becomes vulnerable to damage. Your cells constantly adjust this packaging, compacting and relaxing different regions as needed. The discovery of DNA's structure changed our understanding of heredity forever. Before scientists knew about DNA, inheritance seemed mysterious, with traits passing from parents to children through unknown mechanisms. The revelation that genetic information is stored in molecular form, copied with each cell division and passed between generations through sperm and egg cells, suddenly made heredity comprehensible. This understanding opened doors to modern medicine, agriculture, and biotechnology, transforming abstract concepts of heredity into concrete molecular processes that could be studied, understood, and eventually influenced. As we drift deeper into the molecular realm where your genetic story unfolds, these facts remind us that we are part of something far larger and older than our individual lives. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every thought that flows through your mind is guided by instructions written in a language that predates human civilization by billions of years. In the quiet spaces between these words, your DNA continues its ancient work, reading genetic recipes, repairing daily damage, and maintaining the delicate balance that keeps you alive and dreaming. DNA remembers trauma across generations, carrying emotional echoes in its molecular structure. Scientists have discovered that severe stress and trauma can actually alter the expression of genes, not just in the person who experienced it, but potentially in their children and grandchildren as well. This phenomenon, called epigenetic inheritance, suggests that your DNA carries not only the physical blueprints of your ancestors, but also traces of their emotional experiences. The genes themselves don't change, but the chemical tags that influence how they're read can be passed down, like molecular memories whispering across time. In some ways, your genetic code holds the gentle imprints of your family's journey through both joy and hardship. Your DNA has built-in proofreading systems more sophisticated than any computer program. As genetic information is copied during cell division, multiple layers of quality control scan for errors with remarkable precision. First, the DNA copying machinery itself checks each new letter as it's added, rejecting mistakes immediately. Then, specialized repair proteins patrol the newly formed DNA strands, hunting for any errors that slip through the initial screening. Finally, mismatch repair systems perform a final quality check, correcting problem with an accuracy that exceeds 99.9%. This molecular editorial team works tirelessly to preserve the integrity of your genetic information. The human genome contains genetic fossils from our evolutionary past, including broken remnants of genes that once served important functions in our distant ancestors. These pseudogenes are like molecular archaeology, preserving evidence of evolutionary changes that occurred millions of years ago. Some represent genes for proteins our ancestors needed but we no longer use, while others are duplicates that accumulated mutations over time until they became non-functional. These genetic remnants don't burden our cells, but instead serve as a historical record, documenting the long journey from simple organisms to complex human beings. Your DNA is not just a blueprint for who you are, but also a museum of who you once were. DNA replication happens at a pace that would impress the fastest typists. Every second, the molecular machinery in your cells copies approximately 50 genetic letters, working around the clock to maintain and replicate your genetic information. During periods of rapid growth or healing, this process accelerates dramatically, with billions of cells dividing simultaneously. The coordination required for this massive copying effort is extraordinary, with multiple replication sites working in parallel along each chromosome. Despite this incredible speed, the accuracy remains remarkably high, ensuring that each new cell receives a faithful copy of your genetic inheritance. Your genetic code influences your response to different tastes and smells in ways you might never have realized. Buried within your DNA are instructions for building taste and scent receptors, the molecular sensors that detect flavors and aromas. Genetic variations in these receptor genes explain why some people find cilantro delicious while others detect a soapy taste, or why certain individuals are extremely sensitive to bitter compounds while others barely notice them. Your DNA even influences your emotional response to different scents, with some genetic variants making people more likely to find certain odors pleasant or repulsive. In a very real sense, your genes help shape the sensory landscape of your daily experience. DNA can form structures beyond the famous double helix, including 4-stranded formations called G quadruplexes. These unusual configurations occur when certain genetic sequences fold back on themselves, creating stable 4-way junctions that look like molecular knots. Scientists once thought these structures were just laboratory curiosities, but recent research suggests they play important roles in regulating gene expression and protecting chromosome ends. These quadruple helixes add another layer of complexity to genetic architecture, demonstrating that DNA is not just a simple twisted ladder, but a versatile molecule capable of adopting multiple shapes for different cellular functions. The genetic code contains natural redundancy that helps protect against mutations. Most of the amino acids that make up proteins can be encoded by more than one genetic sequence, meaning that some DNA changes don't actually alter the final protein product. This built-in backup system, called degeneracy, provides a buffer against harmful mutations by allowing genetic variations that don't disrupt essential cellular functions. When mutations do occur in these redundant positions, they often have no effect on the organism, creating neutral genetic diversity that can serve as raw material for future evolutionary adaptations. Your DNA thus carries both stability and flexibility, maintaining essential functions while preserving the potential for beneficial change. DNA methylation patterns change throughout your lifetime, creating an epigenetic clock that reflects your biological age. Scientists can now estimate how old someone is by examining the methylation status of specific genes, sometimes with remarkable accuracy. Interestingly, this molecular timekeeper doesn't always match chronological age. Some people show DNA methylation patterns that suggest they're aging more, while others appear slowly than expected to be aging more rapidly at the molecular level. Factors like stress, diet, exercise, and sleep quality all influence this epigenetic aging process, suggesting that lifestyle choices can literally slow down or speed up the molecular clock ticking within your cells. Your DNA contains sequences that act like molecular volume controls, fine-tuning the expression of genes in response to cellular needs. These regulatory elements scattered throughout the genome can amplify or dampen gene activity without changing the underlying genetic code. Some work like dimmer switches, gradually adjusting gene expression levels, while others act more like on-off switches, rapidly activating or silencing genes in response to specific signals. The sophisticated control system allows the same genetic blueprint to create vastly different cell types, from neurons that conduct electrical impulses to muscle cells that contract with force. Ancient DNA studies have revealed that modern humans interbred with other human species that are now extinct. Your genetic code likely contains small contributions from Neanderthals, Denisovans, and possibly other archaic human groups that lived tens of thousands of years ago. These genetic contributions are not evenly distributed across populations, with some groups carrying more ancient DNA than others. Some of these inherited sequences appear to provide advantages such as improved immune responses or better adaptation to high altitudes. In this way, your DNA preserves not just the story of modern human evolution, but also the complex interactions between different human species in prehistoric times. DNA damage and repair follows predictable daily rhythms aligned with your natural sleep-wake cycle. The cellular machinery responsible for fixing genetic damage operates most efficiently during certain hours, with peak repair activity occurring during rest periods when cells are not actively dividing. This circadian regulation of DNA maintenance helps explain why disrupted sleep patterns can increase cancer risk and accelerate aging. Your genetic material is most vulnerable during the active hours of the day, when metabolic processes generate damaging byproducts. But it's also when repair systems work hardest to maintain genomic integrity. The timing of cellular maintenance reflects millions of years of evolution, optimizing genetic preservation around natural patterns of activity and rest. The discovery that DNA could be modified by environmental factors without changing the underlying sequence revolutionized our understanding of genetics. This field, called epigenetics, revealed that genetic expression is much more flexible than previously thought. Chemical modifications to DNA and associated proteins can be influenced by diet, stress, exercise, and even social experiences, potentially affecting health and behavior for years or even generations. These epigenetic changes provide a mechanism by which the environment can leave lasting marks on the genome, allowing organisms to adapt to changing conditions within a single lifetime rather than waiting for evolutionary changes across many generations. Your genetic code contains information about your deep ancestral origins, including details about ancient migration patterns and population mixing events. By analyzing specific genetic markers, scientists can trace your ancestry back hundreds of generations, revealing the paths your ancestors took as they spread across the globe. These genetic signatures tell stories of ancient trade routes, population expansions, and cultural exchanges that occurred long before written history. Some genetic variants can pinpoint ancestry to specific geographic regions, while others reveal evidence of mixing between populations that occurred thousands of years ago. Your DNA is thus both a personal identity card and a historical document of human migration and cultural exchange. DNA packaging and organization within the cell nucleus is far from random, with chromosomes occupying specific territories and genes clustering in functionally related neighborhoods. This three-dimensional architecture of the genome influences which genes can interact with each other and how readily they can be activated or silenced. Recent advances in imaging technology have revealed that the nucleus is highly organized, with active genes often clustering in regions rich in transcription machinery, while inactive genes tend to be sequestered in quieter nuclear neighborhoods. This spatial organization adds another layer of complexity to genetic regulation, showing that not just what genes you have, but where they're located within the cell, influences how they function. The human genome contains thousands of genetic variants that influence drug metabolism, explaining why medications affect people differently. Your DNA determines how quickly you break down certain drugs, how effectively you absorb them, and even whether you're likely to experience adverse reactions. These pharmacogenetic differences can be dramatic, with some people requiring much higher or lower doses of medications to achieve the same therapeutic effect. As personalized medicine advances, genetic testing is increasingly being used to guide treatment decisions, allowing doctors to prescribe medications based not just on symptoms and diagnosis, but also on individual genetic profiles. Your DNA thus serves not only as a blueprint for normal physiology, but also as a guide for optimal medical treatment. DNA research has revealed that the human genome is remarkably dynamic, with large sections occasionally duplicating, deleting, or rearranging themselves. These structural variations, once thought to be rare and usually harmful, are now recognized as common and often beneficial sources of genetic diversity. Some people carry multiple copies of genes that help break down starch, providing advantages in populations with high carbohydrate diets, while others have duplications of genes involved in color vision or immune responses. These large-scale genetic rearrangements demonstrate that evolution operates not just through single-letter changes in the genetic code, but also through wholesale reorganization of genomic architecture. As the night deepens and these molecular revelations flow gently through your consciousness, remember that every cell in your body carries this incredible legacy of information, repair, and adaptation. Your DNA is simultaneously ancient and modern, stable and dynamic, personal and universal. In the quiet hours when you rest, this genetic machinery continues its patient work, maintaining the delicate balance between preservation and change that makes life possible. The story written in your genes connects you not only to your immediate family, but to all life on Earth, stretching back through billions of years of evolution to the very first molecules that learned to make copies of themselves in the primordial seas. DNA contains genetic switches that respond to the seasons, subtly adjusting your biology throughout the year. These circadian and seasonal rhythms are written into your genetic code, influencing everything from your immune system strength to your mood and energy levels. During winter months, certain genes that help process vitamin D become more active, while genes involved in serotonin production may dial down their activity. Your DNA doesn't just carry static instructions, but rather dynamic programs that help your body adapt to the changing world around it. This seasonal genetic choreography explains why you might feel different in winter than in summer, why certain health conditions flare during specific times of year, and why your ancestors were able to survive in climates with dramatic seasonal variations. The spaces between genes, once dismissed as empty molecular real estate, are now known to contain crucial regulatory information. These intergenic regions act like molecular traffic controllers, determining when and where genes should be active. Some contain enhancer sequences that can boost gene expression from great distances along the chromosome, while others harbor silencer elements that keep genes quiet when they're not needed. The discovery that these supposedly empty regions are actually bustling with regulatory activity has transformed our understanding of genetic complexity. Your genome is not just a collection of individual genes, but rather an intricate network where distant elements communicate across chromosomal space to orchestrate cellular function. DNA can be influenced by the foods you eat in ways that persist long after digestion is complete. Certain nutrients can directly affect DNA methylation patterns, potentially altering gene expression for weeks or months. The polyphenols in green tea, the folate in leafy vegetables, and even the compounds in turmeric can leave lasting molecular signatures on your genetic material. These dietary influences don't change your DNA sequence, but rather modify how your genes are read and interpreted. In this way, your genetic expression becomes a kind of molecular diary, recording not just your inherited traits, but also the nutritional choices you make throughout life. Your DNA repair systems work differently in different tissues, with some organs having enhanced protection mechanisms. Brain cells, which must last your entire lifetime, have particularly robust DNA repair capabilities, while cells in your skin, which are regularly replaced, may have less intensive repair systems. This tissue-specific variation in genetic maintenance helps explain why certain organs are more susceptible to age-related damage than others. The heart, liver, and other long-lived tissues invest heavily in DNA preservation, while rapidly dividing tissues like those in your digestive tract rely more on replacement than repair. Genetic recombination during the formation of reproductive cells ensures that each sperm or egg carries a unique combination of your genetic material. This shuffling process, called crossing over, creates new arrangements of genes that didn't exist in either of your parents. As a result, each potential offspring represents a novel genetic experiment, carrying familiar traits arranged in unprecedented combinations. This recombination is why siblings can look so different despite sharing the same parents, and why genetic diversity persists even within families. Your DNA thus serves not just as your personal genetic blueprint, but also as raw material for future genetic innovations. DNA methylation can be influenced by social experiences with loneliness, stress, and trauma, leaving detectable marks on genetic material. Studies have found that people experiencing chronic social isolation show different methylation patterns compared to those with strong social connections. These molecular changes can affect immune function, stress responses, and even longevity. Conversely, positive social experiences, loving relationships, and strong community connections appear to promote healthier epigenetic patterns. Your genes are not isolated from your emotional and social world, but rather respond dynamically to the quality of your relationships and experiences. The human genome contains genetic sequences that appear to regulate the aging process itself. These longevity genes influence cellular repair mechanisms, antioxidant production, and stress resistance. Some people inherit variants of these genes that promote exceptional longevity, while others carry versions that may accelerate certain aspects of aging. However, genetic predisposition is not destiny when it comes to aging. Lifestyle factors like exercise, diet, and stress management can influence how these longevity genes are expressed, potentially extending health span even in people who didn't inherit the most favorable genetic variants. DNA damage accumulates at different rates in different people, influenced by both genetic factors and environmental exposures. Some individuals have genetic variants that make their DNA more susceptible to damage from ultraviolet radiation, while others carry protective variants that enhance their cellular repair capabilities. Environmental factors like air pollution, smoking, and excessive sun exposure can accelerate DNA damage, while antioxidant-rich foods, regular exercise, and adequate sleep can help protect genetic material. The interplay between inherited susceptibility and lifestyle choices determines how well your DNA weathers the challenges of daily life. Your genetic code contains information about your sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, including light exposure and its effects on circadian rhythms. Specific genetic variants influence how readily your internal clock responds to light signals, determining whether you're highly sensitive to evening light exposure or relatively resistant to its sleep-disrupting effects. These same genetic factors affect your production of melatonin and other sleep-related hormones. Understanding your genetic chronotype can help explain why some people thrive with early morning light exposure, while others need darkness well into the evening to maintain healthy sleep patterns. DNA can form temporary loops and bends that bring distant genetic elements into close physical proximity. These three-dimensional interactions allow genes separated by millions of base pairs to communicate directly, creating dynamic genetic networks that operate across chromosomal space. Advanced imaging techniques have revealed that the genome is constantly reshaping itself, with different loop configurations forming in response to cellular needs. This spatial choreography adds yet another layer of complexity to genetic regulation, showing that gene expression depends not just on linear DNA sequences, but also on the three-dimensional architecture of the cell nucleus. The discovery of CRISPR and other gene editing technologies has revealed that DNA is more malleable than previously imagined. These molecular scissors can make precise cuts in genetic sequences, allowing scientists to add, remove, or modify specific genetic information. While these technologies are still in their infancy for human applications, they've already revolutionized research by allowing scientists to study gene function with unprecedented precision. The ability to edit DNA has opened new possibilities for treating genetic diseases and has deepened our understanding of how individual genes contribute to health and disease. Your DNA contains genetic variants that influence your response to different types of exercise. Some people carry gene variants that make them naturally better suited for endurance activities, while others have genetic profiles that favor power and strength training. These differences affect muscle fiber composition, oxygen utilization, and recovery times. However, genetic predisposition doesn't determine athletic destiny. Training can modify gene expression patterns, potentially helping people overcome genetic limitations and optimize their fitness, regardless of their inherited traits. DNA methylation patterns can be reset during early development, providing each generation with a fresh epigenetic start. This reprogramming process, which occurs during embryonic development and again during the formation of reproductive cells, erases most of the epigenetic marks acquired during a parent's lifetime. However, some methylation patterns appear to escape this erasure, potentially passing environmental influences from parents to children. This selective inheritance of epigenetic information provides a mechanism for rapid adaptation to environmental changes, without waiting for genetic mutations to accumulate. The human genome contains genetic sequences that originated from other species through horizontal gene transfer events that occurred millions of years ago. These foreign genetic elements, now fully integrated into human DNA, include sequences that may have come from bacteria, viruses, and other organisms. Some of these borrowed genes have been repurposed to serve essential human functions, while others remain as evolutionary curiosities. This genetic borrowing demonstrates that evolution is not just a process of gradual change within species, but also involves occasional leaps through the acquisition of genetic material from unexpected sources. Your DNA influences your circadian preferences in ways that extend beyond simple morning or evening preferences. Just when you prefer, genetic variants affect not to sleep and wake, but also when your body temperature peaks, when your reaction times are fastest, and when your cognitive performance is at its best. These chronogenetic differences can influence everything from academic performance to susceptibility to certain diseases. Understanding your genetic chronotype can help optimize daily schedules, meal timing, and even medication administration for maximum effectiveness. DNA repair efficiency varies with age, generally declining as we get older, but with significant individual differences. Some people maintain robust DNA repair capabilities well into advanced age, while others show early declines in genetic maintenance systems. These differences appear to be influenced by both inherited genetic variants and lifestyle factors. The age-related decline in DNA repair helps explain why cancer risk increases with age, but it also suggests that interventions to support genetic maintenance could potentially slow certain aspects of aging. The human genome contains genetic elements that respond to magnetic fields, though their function remains largely mysterious. Some of these magnetosensitive genes may be evolutionary remnants from ancestors who used magnetic navigation, while others might serve unknown functions in modern humans. Research into these genetic elements is still in its early stages, but they represent another example of how our genetic code contains hidden complexities that we're only beginning to understand. Your genetic material influences your response to different types of stress, with some people genetically predisposed to resilience while others may be more sensitive to stressful experiences. These differences involve genes that regulate stress hormone production, neurotransmitter metabolism, and inflammatory responses. However, genetic stress sensitivity is not permanent or unchangeable. Meditation, social support, and other stress reduction techniques, expression of stress can modify the related genes, potentially helping people overcome genetic predispositions to stress sensitivity. DNA contains cells that tell genetic FOSS the story of ancient viral epidemics that affected our ancestors. These endogenous retroviruses, now permanently embedded in human chromosomes, represent the molecular scars left by prehistoric infections. Some of these viral remnants have been co-opted by evolution to serve useful functions, including roles in placental development and immune regulation. The presence of these genetic fossils provides a unique window into the pathogenic challenges faced by ancient human populations and demonstrates how organisms can turn evolutionary threats into advantages over time. As these gentle revelations about your genetic heritage drift through your awareness, consider how each DNA molecule in your body carries the accumulated wisdom of billions of years of evolutionary experimentation. Your genetic code is simultaneously a historical document, an instruction manual, and a dynamic system capable of responding to the world around you. In the quiet moments between thoughts, your DNA continues its ancient work of preservation and adaptation. maintaining the delicate balance that allows consciousness itself to emerge from the dance of molecules. The same genetic elements that helped your distant ancestors survive ice ages and migrations now guide the subtle processes that sustain your dreams and rest. DNA can actually glow under certain conditions, emitting a soft fluorescence when exposed to ultraviolet light. This natural luminescence comes from the chemical structure of the genetic bases themselves, which can absorb UV energy and release it as visible light. Scientists have discovered that this property varies depending on the specific sequence of genetic letters, with some DNA regions glowing more brightly than others. The phenomenon suggests that DNA may have evolved additional functions beyond information storage, possibly serving as a primitive light-sensing system in early organisms. When researchers illuminate living cells with UV light, they can actually see the gentle glow of genetic material within the nucleus, like tiny stars scattered throughout the cellular cosmos. Your DNA contains genetic sequences that influence your perception of time, affecting whether minutes feel like hours or hours pass like minutes. These chronoperception genes help regulate the internal neural networks that track temporal intervals, explaining why some people have an intuitive sense of timing, while others consistently underestimate or overestimate durations. The genetic variations affect neurotransmitter systems involved in attention and memory, thus influences not just biological meditation. These time-related genes may alter us down or accelerates your genetic code rhythms, but also your subjective experience of temporal flow. To the sensation that time cell formation, which are crucial components, their expression patterns contributing of time perception. During periods of intense focus or the process of DNA transcription creates temporary RNA copies that serve as molecular messengers, carrying genetic instructions from the nucleus to protein-making machinery throughout the cell. These RNA molecules are more fragile than DNA, designed to exist into only briefly before being recycled their component parts. The ephemeral nature of RNA allows cells to quickly adjust protein production in response to changing conditions without permanently altering the underlying genetic code. Some RNA molecules fold into complex three-dimensional shapes that can perform catalytic functions, acting as both information carriers and molecular machines. This dual role of RNA suggests it may have been the original molecule of life, capable of both storing information and facilitating chemical reactions. Your genetic material contains built-in timing mechanisms that determine when different genes should be activated during development. These temporal genetic switches ensure that biological processes occur in the correct sequence, from the formation of organs during embryonic growth to the onset of puberty years later. Some genetic timers are set to activate only once in a lifetime, triggering irreversible developmental changes, while others cycle repeatedly, governing processes like hair growth and skin renewal. The precision of these genetic clocks is remarkable, with some developmental events timed to occur within narrow windows of just a few hours or days. When these timing mechanisms malfunction, they can lead to developmental disorders or premature aging. DNA methylation patterns can be influenced by the microorganisms living in your body, creating a complex dialogue between your genetic material and your microbial inhabitants. The trillions of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes that call your body home produce chemical compounds that can cross into your cells and affect how your genes are expressed. Some beneficial bacteria appear to promote healthy methylation patterns that support immune function and reduce inflammation, while harmful microorganisms may trigger epigenetic changes that increase disease susceptibility. This microbial influence on genetic expression represents a form of biological communication that occurs below the level of conscious awareness, with your microscopic residents helping to shape how your genetic instructions are interpreted. The human genome contains musical ability and genetic sequences that appear to influence ality genes affect that rhythm perception. These music development of brain regions involved in processing pitch, timing, and harmony, explaining why some people seem naturally gifted at recognizing melodies or keeping time to music. Genetic variants in these regions also influence language processing abilities, suggesting deep evolutionary connections between music and speech. Some research indicates that exposure to music during early development can actually modify the expression of these musicality genes, potentially enhancing both musical and linguistic capabilities. Your genetic code thus contributes to the soundtrack of your life, influencing how your brain processes the rhythms and melodies that surround you. DNA repair mechanisms become more active during fasting periods, as cellular resources are redirected from growth and reproduction toward maintenance and preservation. When nutrient availability decreases, cells activate genetic pathways that enhance DNA repair efficiency and increase resistance to oxidative damage. This fasting-induced genetic response may help explain why periodic caloric restriction has been associated with increased longevity in various organisms. The molecular switches that control this protective response are sensitive to metabolic signals, allowing your genetic maintenance systems to adapt to changing nutritional conditions. During periods of dietary restriction, your DNA, essentially termed genetic integrity over short-term cellular activities, shifts into a more conservative mode, prioritizing long. Your genetic code influences your sensitivity to different colors of light, affecting not just vision, but also mood, alertness, and hormonal balance. Specific genetic variants determine how readily your eyes detect subtle differences in color and how your brain interprets various wavelengths of light. Some people carry gene versions that make them particularly sensitive to blue light, which can disrupt sleep patterns but also enhance alertness during daylight hours. Others have genetic profiles that make them more responsive to red and orange wavelengths, affecting their circadian rhythms and seasonal mood patterns. These light sensitivity genes evolved to help our ancestors adapt to different geographic locations and lighting conditions, but they continue to influence how modern environments affect your physiology. DNA can form unusual secondary structures called hairpins and cruciforms when certain sequences fold back on themselves. These alternative conformations can temporarily block normal gene expression or create binding sites for regulatory proteins, adding another layer of complexity to genetic control mechanisms. The formation of these structures is influenced by cellular conditions like temperature, pH, and the presence of specific proteins or small molecules. Some hairpin formations appear to serve protective functions, preventing unwanted genetic activity during cellular stress, while others may facilitate communication between distant genetic elements. These structural gymnastics demonstrate that DNA is not just a passive information storage system, but an active participant in cellular regulation. Your genetic material contains sequences that influence your response to different therapeutic interventions, from meditation and massage to acupuncture and aromatherapy. These therapy response genes affect how your nervous system processes sensory input, how readily your body releases stress-reducing hormones, and how quickly you recover from various forms of stimulation. Some people carry genetic variants that make them highly responsive to tactile therapies, while others may be genetically predisposed to benefit more from visual or auditory therapeutic approaches. Understanding these genetic differences could help personalize therapeutic interventions, allowing practitioners to tailor treatments based on individual genetic profiles rather than using one-size-fits-all approaches. DNA damage can trigger cellular senescence, a state where cells stop dividing but remain metabolically active. These senescent cells secrete inflammatory compounds that can affect surrounding tissues, contributing to aging and age-related diseases. However, recent research has revealed that senescence may also serve protective functions, preventing damaged cells from becoming cancerous and facilitating tissue repair in some circumstances. The genetic pathways that control senescence are complex, involving multiple tumor suppressor genes and DNA repair mechanisms. Some genetic variants appear to delay the onset of senescence, potentially contributing to exceptional longevity, while others may accelerate this process under certain conditions. The human genome contains genetic elements that respond to social hierarchies and status relationships, with gene expression patterns shifting based on perceived social position. These status-responsive genes affect immune function, stress hormone production, and inflammatory responses, potentially explaining why social isolation and low social status are associated with poor health outcomes. The genetic response to social conditions appears to be evolutionarily ancient, reflecting the importance of social relationships for survival in group-living species. Interestingly, these social response genes can be influenced by changes in social circumstances, suggesting that improvements in social connections and status can literally reprogram genetic expression patterns. DNA contains genetic switches that respond to temperature changes, helping your body adapt to different thermal environments. These thermosensitive genes regulate everything from blood vessel dilation and sweating responses to metabolic rate adjustments and fat storage patterns. Some genetic variants make people better adapted to cold climates, enhancing their ability to generate body heat and maintain core temperature, while others provide advantages in hot environments through improved heat dissipation mechanisms. The expression of these temperature response genes can be modified by gradual exposure to different thermal conditions, allowing your body to acclimate to new environments over time. Your genetic code influences your response to different types of physical touch, from gentle caresses to firm pressure. These touch sensitivity genes affect the development and function of various mechanoreceptors in your skin, determining how readily you detect different tactile sensations and how your nervous system interprets them. Some people carry genetic variants that make them highly sensitive to light touch, while others require more intense stimulation to register tactile input. These genetic differences in touch processing may influence everything from social bonding behaviors to pain perception and therapeutic massage effectiveness. DNA methylation patterns can be influenced by seasonal light exposure, with longer daylight hours promoting different epigenetic modifications than shorter winter days. These light-induced changes in genetic expression help synchronize cellular activities with natural circadian and circannual rhythms, optim production to immune function, basicizing everything from hormoned on seasonal conditions. The seasonal epigenetic response appears to be particularly important for regulating mood, energy levels, and reproductive behaviors. Some people show more pronounced seasonal changes in DNA methylation than others, which may explain individual differences in seasonal affective responses and adaptation to different geographic locations. The human genome contains genetic sequences that influence your response to different scents and their effects on memory and emotion. These olfactory response genes affect the development of smell receptors in your nose and the neural pathways that connect scent perception to memory and emotional centers in your brain. Genetic variants in these regions help explain why certain odors can trigger vivid memories or strong emotional reactions in some people, while having little effect on others. The close connection between smell-related genes and memory systems reflects the evolutionary importance of olfactory cues for finding food, avoiding danger, and recognizing family members. DNA repair efficiency can be enhanced by exposure to certain frequencies of sound and vibration, with some research suggesting that specific acoustic environments may promote genetic maintenance mechanisms. The mechanical vibrations created by sound waves can influence cellular processes, potentially affecting the activity of repair enzymes and the accessibility of damaged DNA regions. While this area of research is still emerging, some studies have found that exposure to particular musical frequencies or natural sounds may support cellular health and longevity. The genetic basis for these sound healing effects likely that respond to VI involves mechanosensitive genes brachial stimuli. Your genetic material contains information about your ancestors' dietary adaptations, including their ability to digest different types of foods and their nutritional requirements. These dietary adaptation genes influence everything from lactose tolerance and alcohol metabolism to vitamin absorption and food sensitivity reactions. Some genetic variants reflect relatively recent evolutionary changes, such as the development of adult lactase persistence in populations with a history of dairy farming, while others represent much older adaptations to different ecological niches. Understanding your genetic dietary profile can help optimize nutrition choices and identify foods that may be particularly beneficial or problematic based on your ancestral heritage. DNA can be modified by exposure to specific wavelengths of light, with some frequencies promoting beneficial epigenetic changes while others may increase mutation rates. The photosensitive nature of genetic material means that light exposure doesn't just affect your eyes and circadian rhythms, but can directly influence cellular processes throughout your body. Red and near-infrared light appear to support cellular energy production and may enhance DNA repair mechanisms, while excessive exposure to ultraviolet radiation can cause harmful genetic damage. The therapeutic use of specific light wavelengths to promote healing and cellular regeneration is an emerging field that leverages these natural photobiological processes. Your genetic code contains sequences that influence your response to different types of movement and exercise, determining which forms of physical activity are most beneficial for your particular physiology. These movement response genes affect muscle fiber composition, energy metabolism, recovery rates, and adaptation to different training stimuli. Some people carry genetic variants that make them naturally suited for endurance activities, while others have profiles that favor explosive power or flexibility-based movements. The expression of these movement genes can be influenced by training, allowing people to partially overcome genetic limitations and optimize their fitness, regardless of their inherited predispositions. DNA methylation can be influenced by breathing techniques, potentially promoting beneficial patterns with specific respiratory epigenetic modifications. Deep, rhythmic breathing appears to activate genetic pathways associated with relaxation and cellular repair, while shallow, rapid breathing may trigger stress response genes and inflammatory pathways. The connection between breath and genetic expression may help explain why breathing-based practices like meditation, yoga, and pranayama have such profound effects on health and well-being. Some research suggests that conscious breathing exercises can actually reprogram genetic expression patterns, supporting cellular health and emotional balance through purely physiological mechanisms. The human genome contains genetic elements that respond to electromagnetic fields, though their function in modern environments remains largely mysterious. These electromagnetic sensitive who used GE genes may be evolutionary remnants from ancestors' omagnetic navigation or other electromagnetic sensing abilities. Some research suggests that exposure to certain electromagnetic frequencies might influence the expression of these genes, potentially affecting cellular processes in ways we're only beginning to understand. The increasing prevalence of artificial electromagnetic fields in modern environments raises questions about how these exposures might interact with our genetic electromagnetic sensing systems. Your DNA influences your response to different types of mental imagery and visualization practices. Visualization response genes affect the neural networks involved in creating and manipulating mental images, determining how readily you can generate vivid internal representations and how effectively these mental exercises can influence physiological processes. Some people carry genetic variants that make them highly responsive to guided imagery and visualization techniques, while others may benefit more from different types of mental training. These genetic differences in visualization ability may influence the effectiveness of various mind therapeutic approaches. DNA repair processes body interventions and are enhanced during certain stages of sleep, with different types of genetic maintenance occurring during various sleep phases. Deep, slow-wave sleep appears to betative damage to particularly important for repairing oxygenetic material, while REM sleep may facilitate other types of cellular maintenance. The circadian regulation of DNA repair helps explain why sleep disruption is associated with increased cancer risk and accelerated aging. Some genetic variants affect the timing and efficiency of these sleep-dependent repair processes, influencing individual differences in sleep needs and the health consequences of sleep deprivation. As these gentle molecular mysteries drift through your awareness like whispers from the deepest chambers of life itself, remember that every breath you take is guided by genetic instructions written in an ancient language that connects you to the very first spark of consciousness on Earth. Your DNA is not just a biological blueprint, but a living library of evolutionary wisdom, a molecular memory that carries knowledge of countless generations, who forward the accumulate survived, adapted, and thrived against impossible odds. In the quiet spaces between heartbeats, this genetic symphony continues its timeless performance, orchestrating the delicate dance of molecules that makes awareness possible, weaving together past and future in the eternal present moment where life unfolds its infinite potential. The genetic material in your cells operates on multiple timescales simultaneously, with some processes occurring in microseconds while others unfold over decades. DNA polymerase enzymes can add new genetic letters at rates exceeding 1,000 per second during replication. Yet the overall stability of your genetic code allows information to persist virtually unchanged for your entire lifetime. This temporal complexity means that your DNA exists in a state of constant flux at the molecular level while maintaining remarkable stability at the informational level. Some genetic repair processes respond to damage within minutes, while others may take hours or days to complete their ration of these different work. The Orcus timescales creates a genetic symphony where rapid molecular movement TS harmonize with slower, more deliberate cellular processes. Your DNA contains genetic sequences that influence your sensitivity to atmospheric pressure changes, affecting how your body responds to weather patterns and altitude variations. These barometric pressure genes help regulate blood vessel dilation, joint fluid production, and inner ear pressure balance, explaining why some people can literally feel approaching storms while others remain unaware of atmospheric changes. Genetic variants in these pressure-sensing systems may have helped ancient populations migrate to different elevations and geographic regions. Some people carry gene versions that make them particularly sensitive to low-pressure systems, experiencing changes in mood, energy, or physical comfort before weather fronts arrive, while others have genetic profiles that provide nature resistance to altitude-related discomfort. DNA can undergo reversible chemical modifications that act like molecular bookmarks, marking specific genetic regions for future reference without permanently altering the underlying code. These epigenetic bookmarks help cells remember previous experiences and maintain stable patterns of gene expression even after cell division. The bookmark system is particularly important during development, allowing cells to remember their specialized identities as they mature into different tissue types. Some of these molecular markers can persist for months or years, creating a form of cellular memory that influences how genes respond to future environmental challenges. The ability to place and remove these genetic bookmarks provides cells with a flexible system for adapting to changing conditions, preserving essential functions. Your genetic code influences your response to different types of physical environments, from crowded spaces to open landscapes. Environmental preference genes affect the development of sensory processing systems and stress response pathways, determining whether you feel energized by bustling environments or prefer the trance settings. Some genetic quality of natural variants are associated with enhanced spatial awareness and navigation abilities, while others promote social sensitivity and interpersonal attunement. These environmental response genes likely evolved to help different individuals specialize in various ecological niches, with naturally some people suited for dense social environments and others thriving in solitary or natural settings. The expression of these genes can be influenced, said by early life experiences, potentially shaping lifelong preferences for different types of environments. DNA methylation patterns can be influenced by exposure to natural environments, with time spent in forests, gardens, and other green spaces promoting beneficial epigenetic modifications. Nature exposure appears to activate genetic pathways associated with stress reduction, immune system regulation, and cellular repair mechanisms. The Japanese practice of forest bathing, or Shinrin-yoku, may work partly through these epigenetic mechanisms, with natural compounds released by trees triggering changes in genetic expression that promote health and well-being. Some research suggests that even brief periods of nature exposure can begin to modify DNA methylation patterns, supporting the idea that connection with natural environments is not just psychologically beneficial, but also biologically essential for optimal genetic function. The human genome contains genetic elements and physical that respond to social touch affection, with different types of tactile contact triggering distinct patterns of gene expression. Genetic pathways involve affectionate touch appears to activated in bonding hormone production, stress reduction, and immune system enhancement, while aggressive or unwanted touch may trigger inflammatory gene responses. These touch-responsive genes help explain why physical affection is so important for human health and development, particularly during infancy and childhood, when these genetic systems are being established. The quality and intention behind physical contact appears to influence genetic responses, suggesting that the emotional context of touch is as important as the mechanical stimulation itself. Your DNA contains sequences that influence your response to different types of learning environments and educational approaches. Learning style genes affect the development of neural networks involved in processing visual, auditory, and kinesthetic information, determining whether you learn best through reading, listening, hands-on experience, or some combination of approaches. Some genetic variants promote enhanced visual processing abilities, diagrams, and spatial making charts tools, while others favor representations, particularly effective learning, auditory processing, or tactile learning experiences. The expression of these learning-related by educational experiences genes can be influenced, suggesting that exposure to diverse learning modalities during development can help optimize genetic potential regardless of inherited predispositions. DNA repair efficiency can be enhanced by exposure to certain plant compounds and natural chemicals, with many traditional medicinal plants containing molecules that support genetic maintenance mechanisms. Compounds like resveratrol from grapes, curcumin from turmeric, and various polyphenols from berries and green tea can influence the activity of DNA repair enzymes and protective cellular pathways. These plant-derived molecules often work by activating genetic switches that enhance cellular defenses against oxidative damage and other forms of genetic stress. The coevolution of plants and animals may have resulted in chemical communication systems where plant compounds serve as signals that help animals optimize their genetic maintenance processes. Your genetic material contains information about your ancestors' exposure to various environmental toxins and their developed resistance mechanisms. Detoxification genes vary significantly between populations, reflecting different historical exposures to natural toxins, dietary compounds, and environmental challenges. Some people inherit genetic variants that make them particularly efficient at metabolizing certain classes of chemicals, while others may be more sensitive to specific environmental exposures. These genetic differences in detoxification capacity help explain individual variations in response to medications, environmental pollutants, and dietary compounds. Understanding your genetic detoxification profile can help guide lifestyle choices and environmental exposures to optimize health based on inherited capabilities. DNA can form complex three-dimensional interactions between chromosomes, creating genetic networks that span multiple chromosomes and coordinate the expression of related genes across the entire genome. These interchromosomal communications allow cells to orchestrate complex biological processes that require the coordinated activity of genes located in different parts of the genetic code. Advanced imaging techniques have revealed that chromosomes are not randomly distributed within the cell nucleus, but are organized into functional territories that facilitate these long-range genetic interactions. The spatial organization of chromosomes can change in response to cellular needs, bringing together genetic elements that need to work in coordination while separating potentially conflicting genetic programs. Your genetic code influences your response to different types of music and sound frequencies, with specific genetic variants affecting how your brain processes rhythm, melody, and harmonic content. Music response genes influence the development of auditory processing centers and emotional regulation networks, determining whether certain types of music energize, calm, or emotionally move you. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly sensitive to rhythmic patterns, while others are more responsive to melodic or harmonic elements. The therapeutic use of music and sound may work partly through these genetic mechanisms, with different frequencies and musical structures triggering beneficial changes in gene expression patterns related to stress reduction, mood regulation, and cellular repair. DNA methylation can be influenced by social connections and relationship quality, with strong, supportive relationships promoting beneficial epigenetic patterns, while isolation and conflict may trigger harmful genetic modifications. The social environment appears to communicate with genetic regulatory systems through stress hormone pathways and inflammatory signaling molecules. People in loving, stable relationships often show healthier patterns of DNA methylation, while those experiencing social stress or loneliness may develop epigenetic signatures associated with accelerated aging and increased disease risk. These relationship-induced changes in genetic expression can persist for months or years, suggesting that social experiences leave lasting molecular imprints on our genetic material. The human genome contains genetic sequences that influence your response to different types of physical textures and materials. Texture sensitivity genes affect the development of tactile receptors and sensory processing pathways, determining how you respond to various fabric textures, surface materials, and physical sensations. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to smooth textures like silk or satin, while others enhance responsiveness to rougher textures or temperature variations in materials. These genetic differences in texture processing may influence everything from clothing preferences to therapeutic massage effectiveness and environmental comfort levels. Your DNA influences your circadian response to artificial lighting, determining how readily your internal clock adjusts to different types of indoor illumination. Light response genes affect the sensitivity of circadian photoreceptors and the pathways that communicate lighting information to your biological clock. Some people carry genetic variants that make them highly sensitive to blue light from electronic devices, while others have genetic profiles that provide natural resistance to circadian disruption from artificial lighting. Understanding these genetic differences in light sensitivity can help optimize indoor lighting environments and screen use patterns to support healthy sleep and circadian rhythms. DNA can undergo age-related changes in its three-dimensional structure, with chromosomes becoming less organized, and genetic territories becoming more diffuse as cells age. This age-related loss of genetic organization may contribute to declining cellular function and increased mutation rates in older tissues. However, some genetic variants appear to help maintain chromosomal organization throughout life, potentially contributing to exceptional longevity and healthy aging. Interventions that support cellular health, such as regular exercise and stress reduction, may help preserve genetic organization and maintain optimal gene expression patterns as you age. Your genetic material contains sequences that respond to different types of mental states and emotional experiences. Consciousness-responsive genes can be influenced by meditation, focused attention, emotional states, and various forms of mental training. Some genetic variants make people particularly responsive to mindfulness practices, while others may benefit more from different types of mental exercises or cognitive approaches. The discovery that mental states can directly influence genetic expression suggests that consciousness itself may play an active role in regulating cellular function and health outcomes. DNA repair mechanisms show individual variations in their response to different types of beneficial stress, such as exercise, heat exposure, or cold therapy. Hormetic response genes determine how readily your cells activate protective pathways in response to mild stressors that ultimately strengthen cellular resilience. Some people have genetic variants that make them highly responsive to exercise-induced cellular stress, gaining significant health benefits from relatively modest physical activity, while others may require more intense stimulation to activate these protective genetic pathways. Understanding your genetic hormetic response profile could help optimize lifestyle interventions for maximum health benefit. The human genome contains genetic elements that influence your response to different types of cognitive challenges and mental stimulation. Cognitive stimulation genes affect neural plasticity, learning capacity, and the brain's response to intellectual challenges. Some genetic variants promote enhanced neuroplasticity and adaptation to new cognitive demands, while others may provide advantages for specific types of mental processing, such as spatial reasoning, verbal fluency, or mathematical thinking. The expression of these cognitive genes can be influenced by lifelong learning and mental challenges, suggesting that intellectual engagement can help optimize genetic potential for cognitive health throughout life. Your DNA influences your sensitivity to electromagnetic radiation from natural sources, including the Earth's magnetic field and solar radiation. Natural electromagnetic sensitivity genes may affect circadian rhythms, seasonal adaptations, and even navigation abilities through mechanisms that remain largely mysterious. Some people appear to be more sensitive to changes in the Earth's magnetic field, experiencing subtle physiological responses to geomagnetic storms or variations in local magnetic conditions. These genetic variations in electromagnetic sensitivity may represent evolutionary remnants of navigation abilities that were more important to our ancestors than they are in modern environments. DNA methylation patterns can be influenced by creative activities and artistic expression, with engagement in music, visual arts, writing, and other creative pursuits promoting beneficial epigenetic modifications. Creative expression appears to activate genetic pathways associated with neural plasticity, stress reduction, and emotional regulation. The act of creating something new may trigger changes in genetic expression that support both mental and physical health, potentially explaining why artistic activities are often therapeutic and mood-enhancing. Some research suggests that different types of creative expression may influence genetic patterns in distinct ways, with musical activities, visual arts, and writing each promoting unique combinations of beneficial genetic modifications. Your genetic code contains information about your ancestors' seasonal adaptations, including their ability to adjust metabolism, mood, and behavior in response to changing daylight hours and seasonal food availability. Seasonal adaptation genes influence everything from vitamin D metabolism and seasonal affective responses to hibernation-like tendencies and seasonal changes in appetite and energy levels. Some genetic variants help people maintain stable mood and energy throughout the year, while others may predispose individuals to more pronounced seasonal variations in physiology and behavior. Understanding your genetic seasonal profile can help optimize light exposure, dietary choices, and activity patterns to work with rather than against your inherited seasonal tendencies. DNA can form temporary associations with various cellular structures, creating dynamic genetic networks that respond to changing cellular conditions. These transient genetic interactions allow for rapid adjustments in gene expression without permanent changes to the underlying genetic code. Some genetic sequences act like molecular sensors, detecting changes in cellular environment and triggering appropriate responses in related genetic networks. The fluid nature of these genetic associations provides cells with remarkable flexibility in responding to internal and external challenges while maintaining overall genomic stability. Your genetic material influences your response to different types of therapeutic interventions, from conventional medical treatments to complementary and alternative approaches. Therapy response genes affect how your body processes different types of therapeutic stimulation, whether pharmaceutical, physical, energetic, or psychological. Some people carry genetic variants that make them highly responsive to certain therapeutic modalities while being less sensitive to others. This genetic variation in therapy responsiveness suggests that truly personalized medicine should consider not only the condition being treated, but also the individual's genetic predisposition to benefit from different types of interventions. DNA repair processes can be synchronized with lunar cycles and other astronomical rhythms, though the mechanisms behind these connections remain largely unexplored. Some research suggests that cellular repair activities may be influenced by gravitational forces, electromagnetic fields, or other subtle environmental rhythms that vary with celestial cycles. While the scientific understanding of these connections is still developing, traditional healing systems from many cultures have long recognized relationships between cosmic cycles and biological processes. The possibility that DNA repair and other cellular activities are influenced by astronomical rhythms adds another layer of complexity to our understanding of genetic regulation. The human genome contains sequences that influence your response to different types of social environments and group dynamics. Social environment genes affect stress responses, empathy, leadership tendencies, and comfort levels in various social situations. Some genetic variants promote enhanced social sensitivity and emotional attunement, while others may provide advantages in competitive or hierarchical social environments. These social response genes likely evolved to help individuals specialize in different social roles and environments, with some people naturally suited for collaborative, nurturing contexts and others thriving in more competitive or independent situations. Your DNA influences your response to and architectural different types of physical spaces environments. Spatial response genes affect how your nervous system processes different types of built spaces to environments, from intimate, grand architectural settings. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly sensitive to ceiling height, room proportions, lighting, architectural conditions, and other features, while others may be less affected by physical spatial characteristics. These genetic differences in spatial sensitivity may influence everything from housing preferences and workplace productivity to therapeutic environment effectiveness and general comfort levels in different types of spaces. As these profound genetic revelations continue to unfold like pages in an ancient book written in the language of life itself, you can rest in the knowledge that your DNA carries not just the instructions for your physical form, but also the accumulated wisdom of countless generations who faced every conceivable challenge and discovered ways to not merely survive, but to flourish and pass their resilience forward through time. In the gentle rhythm of your breathing, in the steady pulse of your heart, in the quiet electrical symphony of your thoughts, these genetic instructions continue their eternal work of maintaining, protecting, and nurturing the miraculous complexity that makes you uniquely you, while connecting you to the vast web of life that stretches across all time and space. DNA responds to gravitational forces in ways that subtly influence cellular processes, though these effects operate far below the threshold of conscious awareness. Your genetic material experiences tiny mechanical stresses as Earth's gravitational field pulls on the dense molecular structures within your cells. These gravitational influences may affect how DNA coils and uncoils during replication and transcription, potentially contributing to the precise timing of genetic processes. Some researchers theorize that the consistent downward pull of gravity helps orient cellular structures and may even influence the three-dimensional folding of genetic material within the nucleus. During periods of weightlessness, such as those experienced by astronauts, cells show organized genetic activities. Urus that normally help altered patterns of gene expression that may partly result from the absence of gravitational C genetic code contain sequences that influence your response to different types of water and hydration sources. Hydration response genes affect how efficiently your cells absorb and utilize water from different sources, whether from natural springs, treated municipal supplies, or various types of filtered water. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to mineral content in water, while others affect hydration levels under the body's ability to maintain optimal different environmental conditions. These water-responsive genes adapt to different geographic regions, which may have evolved to help populations varying water quality and mineral content. The expression of these hydration genes can be influenced by dietary factors and environmental conditions, affecting everything from cellular energy production to cognitive performance and physical endurance. DNA methylation can be influenced by exposure to different types of natural stone and mineral environments. Spending time near certain types of rocks and minerals appears to affect cellular processes through mechanisms that may involve subtle electromagnetic fields, negative ion generation, or trace element exposure. Some people report feeling particularly energized or calm in specific geological environments, and emerging research suggests these responses may have epigenetic components. The interaction between human genetic material and geological environments represents an ancient relationship that may have influenced human evolution and continues to affect health and well-being in ways we're only beginning to understand. Different types of stone environments appear to promote different patterns of genetic expression, with some geological settings supporting relaxation and cellular repair, while others may enhance alertness and energy production. Your genetic material contains information about your ancestors' adaptation to different types of shelter and living environments. Shelter adaptation genes influence how your body responds to various types of indoor environments, from natural caves and earth-sheltered dwellings to modern constructed spaces. Some genetic variants affect sensitivity to indoor air quality, humidity levels, and electromagnetic fields from building materials and electrical systems. These genes may have helped ancient populations adapt to different types of natural and constructed shelters, developing preferences and physiological responses that optimized health and comfort in various living environments. Understanding your genetic shelter preferences could help guide housing choices and indoor environmental modifications to support optimal health and well-being. DNA repair mechanisms can be influenced by exposure to certain types of crystals and mineral formations, though the mechanisms behind these effects. Some research suggests that the remain largely theoretical regular atomic structures found in crystals may generate subtle electromagnetic fields or vibrational patterns that could potentially influence cellular processes. While scientific evidence for crystal healing effects is limited, the possibility that structured mineral environments might affect genetic processes represents an intriguing area for future investigation. The interaction between human genetic material and crystalline structures may operate through mechanisms involving piezoelectric effects, stress on where mechanical electrical fields crystals generates, that could theoretically influence nearby biological systems. Your genetic code influences your response to different types of natural fibers and materials in your environment. Material sensitivity genes affect how your skin and nervous system respond to various natural substances like cotton, wool, silk, hemp, and other plant and animal fibers. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly sensitive to certain natural materials, experiencing either comfort and relaxation or irritation and discomfort when in contact with specific fibers. These genetic differences in material help sensitivity may have ancient populations adapt to locally available materials for clothing and shelter. The expression of material sensitivity genes can be influenced by early life experiences and environmental exposures, potentially shaping lifelong preferences. References for different types of natural materials and textures. DNA contains genetic switches that respond to different phases of the moon, though the mechanisms behind these lunar influences on genetic expression remain mysterious. Some research suggests that cellular processes may be sub-factors that vary with lunar cycles. These lunar ational forces, electromagnetic fields, or otherly influenced by gravit-responsive genes may affect sleep patterns, hormonal balance, cellular repair activities, and other physiological processes that show monthly rhythmic variations. While the scientific understanding of lunar effects on genetic expression is still developing, many traditional cultures have long recognized connections between lunar cycles and various aspects of health and behavior. The possibility that genetic processes are influenced by celestial cycles adds another dimension to our understanding of the complex environmental factors that shape your response to different types of plant expression. Your genetic material influences essences and natural aromatherapy compounds. Aromatherapy response genes affect how your olfactory system and brain process various plant-derived scents, and how these aromatic molecules influence genetic expression patterns. Some genetic variants make people particularly responsive to certain classes of plant essences, such as floral scents, woody aromatics, or citrus oils, while others may be more sensitive to herbal or resinous compounds. These genetic differences in aromatherapy responsiveness may reflect evolutionary adaptations to different plant environments and could help, in base therapeutic approaches, explain individual variations in response to science. The expression of aromatherapy responsive genes can be influenced by repeated exposure to specific plant essences, potentially enhancing sensitivity and therapeutic benefits. Ovulation patterns can be influenced by exposure to different types of time. DNA methyl of natural light throughout the day with sunrise and sunset exposures, promoting particularly beneficial epigenetic modifications. The changing color temperature and intensity of natural light from dawn to dusk appears to trigger different genetic responses, helping synchronize cellular activities with natural circadian rhythms. Morning light exposure activates genes involved in energy production and alertness, while evening light promotes genetic pathways associated with cellular repair and preparation for sleep. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to these natural light transitions, while others may require more intense or prolonged light exposure to trigger optimal genetic responses. Understanding your genetic light sensitivity profile can help optimize daily light exposure patterns to support healthy circadian rhythms and genetic expression. Thus, the human genome contains sequences that influence your response to different types of natural water sources and hydrotherapy treatments. Hydrotherapy response genes affect how your body responds to various water-based treatments, from hot springs and mineral baths to cold water immersion and contrast hydrotherapy. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly responsive to hot water treatments, experiencing enhanced relaxation, improved circulation, and beneficial changes in gene expression, while others may benefit more from cold water therapies. These genetic differences in hydrotherapy responsiveness may have helped ancient populations adapt to different aquatic environments and natural healing waters. The therapeutic effects of water-based treatments may work partly through genetic mechanisms that respond to temperature, pressure, and mineral content variations. Your DNA influences your sensitivity to different types of natural electromagnetic fields, including those generated by flowing water, geological formations, and atmospheric conditions. Natural electromagnetic sensitivity genes may affect your ability to detect and respond to subtle environmental energy fields that vary with weather patterns, geological activity, and natural water movements. Some people appear to be more sensitive to these natural electromagnetic variations, experiencing changes in mood, energy, or physical comfort in response to environmental electromagnetic conditions. These genetic variations in electromagnetic sensitivity may represent evolutionary adaptations that helped ancestors navigate using natural electromagnetic cues or detect environmental changes that could affect survival. DNA repair efficiency can be enhanced types of natural environments by exposure to specific that provide optimal combinations of air quality, humidity, environmental factors. Healing, temperature, and other environment genes influence how readily your cellular repair mechanisms respond to different types of natural settings, from forest environments and ocean shores to mountain regions and desert landscapes. Some genetic variants make people particularly responsive to forest environments, with exposure to trees and woodland settings triggering beneficial changes in gene expression related to stress reduction and cellular repair. Others may be more responsive to aquatic environments, mountain settings, or other specific natural landscapes. Understanding your genetic environmental preferences could help guide choices about where to live or spend vacation time for optimal health benefits. Your genetic code contains information about your ancestors' adaptation to different types of seasonal foods and their nutritional timing. Seasonal nutrition genes influence how your body processes and benefits from foods that are naturally available at different times of the year, from spring greens and summer fruits to autumn nuts and winter storage crops. Some genetic variants help optimize the digestion and utilization of seasonal foods, while others may affect timing preferences for different types of nutrients throughout the year. These seasonal nutrition genes may have helped ancient populations maintain optimal health by synchronizing dietary intake with natural food availability and seasonal metabolic needs. Modern understanding of these genetic patterns could help guide seasonal eating choices to work with rather than against inherited nutritional preferences. DNA methylation can be influenced by exposure to different types of beneficial bacteria and fermented foods, with certain probiotic strains promoting healthy epigenetic patterns that support immune function and cellular biome health. Micro-responsive genes help regulate the complex communication material and the TR between your geneticillions of beneficial microorganisms living in and on your body. Some genetic variants make people particularly responsive to specific types of probiotic bacteria, while others may benefit more from diverse microbial exposures or fermented food consumption. The interaction between genetic expression and microbial inhabitants represents a sophisticated biological partnership that affects everything from digestion and immune function to mood regulation and cognitive performance. The human genome contains genetic elements that respond to different types of physical movement patterns and exercise rhythms. Movement pattern, how your body responds genes influence to various types of physical activity, from rhythmic walking and dancing to strength training and flexibility exercises. Some genetic variants promote enhanced benefits from cyclical movements and rhythmic activities, while others may be more responsive to varied or irregular movement patterns. These genetic differences in movement responsiveness may have helped ancient populations adapt to different environmental demands. Understanding and physical challenges, your genetic movement preferences could help optimize exercise choices and daily patterns to maximize activity, health benefits, and minimize injury risk. Your DNA influences your response to different types of natural building materials and architectural your nervous elements. Building material response genes affect how system and cellular processes respond to various natural construction materials like wood, stone, clay, and natural fibers. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly sensitive to specific types of building materials, experiencing enhanced comfort, improved air quality perception, or better sleep when surrounded by certain natural materials. These genetic differences in material sensitivity may reflect evolutionary adaptations to different types of natural shelters, and could help explain individual preferences for various architectural styles and building materials. DNA contains genetic sequences that influence your circadian response to natural temperature variations throughout the day and season. Temperature rhythm genes help regulate how your body adjusts to the natural warming and cooling cycles that occur daily and seasonally, immune function, and cellular, affecting everything from sleep quality and energy levels to repair activities. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to natural temperature rhythms, while others may be less affected by thermal variations or require more pronounced temperature changes to trigger optimal physiological responses. These genetic differences in temperature sensitivity may have helped ancient populations adapt to different climatic conditions and seasonal patterns. Your genetic material influences your response to different types of natural sounds and acoustic environments. Natural sound response genes affect how your auditory system and brain process various environmental sounds, from flowing water and wind patterns to bird songs and natural acoustic resonances. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to certain types of natural sounds, experiencing relaxation, enhanced focus, or other beneficial responses to specific acoustic environments. These genetic differences in sound sensitivity may have helped ancestors navigate different environments, detect environmental changes, or benefit from naturally occurring therapeutic sound frequencies found in various natural settings. DNA repair mechanisms can be synchronized with natural feeding rhythms and meal timing patterns that align with circadian and seasonal cycles. Nutrient how cellular timing genes influence repair processes respond to the timing of food intake, with some genetic variants promoting optimal repair activities when meals are consumed at specific times relative dark cycles. These two natural light genetic patterns may have evolved to help ancient populations maximize the cellular benefits of available food resources, by to coincide with peak timing consumption repair and regener. Timing preferences could help optimize mealation activities. Understanding your genetic nutritional schedules to support cellular longevity. The human genome contains health and longevity sequences that respond to different types of natural color environments and visual landscapes genes influence. Color response, how your visual system and brain process different naturalettes. Color pal affecting mood, stress performance in levels, and cognitive response to various visual environments. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly responsive to green natural environments, experiencing enhanced relaxation and cellular repair when surrounded by forest and meadow landscapes, to blue, while others may be more responsive aquatic environments or earth-tone desert and mountain settings. These genetic differences in color sensitivity may have helped ancient populations adapt to and thrive in different visual DNA influences your sensitivity environments. Your two natural air effects on cellular processes and pressure variations and their overall well-being. Barometric response genes affect how your body responds to changes in atmospheric pressure associated with weather patterns, altitude variations, and natural air movement. Some genetic variants make people particularly sensitive to low-pressure systems, experiencing changes in cellular activity, joint comfort, or mental clarity before weather fronts arrive. Others may be more responsive to high-pressure conditions or altitude changes. Understanding your genetic barometric sensitivity could help anticipate and prepare for weather-related changes in energy, mood, or physical comfort. DNA methylation patterns can be influenced by exposure to natural negative ion environments, such as those found near waterfalls, ocean shores, and after thunderstorms. Negative ion responsive genes may help regulate cellular processes that benefit from these naturally occurring electrical charges in the atmosphere. Some research suggests that negative ion exposure can promote beneficial changes in gene expression related to mood regulation, immune function, and cellular energy production. These genetic responses to natural electrical environments may represent ancient biological systems that helped organisms optimize their physiology based on atmospheric electrical conditions that vary with weather patterns and geographic location. Your genetic code contains information about your ancestors' adaptation to different types of natural sleep environments and their associated sensory conditions. Sleep environment genes influence how readily you achieve deep, restorative sleep in various natural settings, from cave-like enclosed spaces to open-air environments under starlight. Some genetic variants promote optimal sleep in dark, quiet environments with stable temperature and humidity, while others may be adapted to more variable or exposed sleeping conditions. These genetic sleep environment preferences may have helped ancient populations maintain healthy rest patterns while adapting to different shelter types and seasonal sleeping arrangements. The human genome contains genetic elements that respond to different types of natural mineral exposures through diet, water, and environmental contact. Mineral response genes influence how your body processes and utilizes various elements and minerals that occur naturally in different geographic regions. Some genetic variants help optimize the absorption and utilization of specific minerals like magnesium, zinc, or selenium, while others may affect sensitivity to mineral imbalances or deficiencies. These genetic differences in mineral processing may have helped ancient populations adapt to different soil types, water sources, and regional mineral availability patterns. Your DNA influences your response to different types of natural healing environments and their therapeutic potential. Healing environment genes affect how readily your cellular repair mechanisms respond to various natural settings that have traditionally been recognized for their therapeutic properties. Some people carry genetic variants that make them particularly responsive to forest environments, mountain settings, or coastal regions, experiencing enhanced cellular repair, improved immune function, or better stress recovery in these natural healing environments. Understanding your genetic environmental healing preferences could help guide choices about therapeutic retreats, vacation destinations, or daily nature exposure for optimal health benefits. DNA repair processes can be enhanced by exposure to specific combinations, optimal conditions for cellular maintenance of natural environmental factors that create and regeneration. Environmental synergy genes help coordinate responses to multiple environmental factors simultaneously, such as the temperature and peaceful combination of fresh air, natural light, comfortable sounds that together create particularly beneficial conditions for genetic repair activities. Some genetic variants make people especially responsive to these environmental combinations, while others may require different or more specific environmental conditions to achieve optimal cellular repair benefits. As we reach the end of our gentle journey through the molecular universe that lives within you, let these remarkable truths about DNA settle quietly into your awareness, like stars finding their places in the night sky. Tonight, we've discovered that your genetic code is far more than a simple instruction manual. It's a living symphony that responds to seasons and emotions, to light and touch, to the very rhythms of your breathing and the quality of your rest. We've seen how your DNA connects you not only to your ancestors, stretching back billions of years, but also to every living thing on Earth, all sharing the same elegant molecular language written in just 4 simple letters. As you drift toward sleep, remember that within every cell of your body, ancient repair systems are quietly at work, healing and maintaining the genetic stories that make you uniquely you. Sweet dreams, and may your DNA continue its timeless dance of preservation and renewal through the peaceful hours ahead.